Hello, hello. You have landed on Let's Talk News, and I am your host, Leticia Remauro. Boy, we have an interesting show for you tonight. We are going to pregame it and talk about tomorrow night's elections. Just a reminder, tomorrow we'll be going live at 7 and we'll stay live until the polls in New York are closed and the race is called. Unless, of course, it's going to take a week and then we'll just see each other in between. But we're going to definitely watch the returns for the Virginia race, which the polls close at 7. So we'll start at 7. And give a little time for the polls to close. New Jersey's polls close at 8. And then New York's polls close at 9. And the presumption is if it is a runaway for Mamdani or Sliwa or Cuomo, then we'll know by 10. If it is not a runaway, then we could be around for a while. I think midnight we'll call it quits, right? But hopefully it won't take that long. Hello, Lucille. I am so glad you're excited. God bless you. I just hope that lots of people who are conservative minded are excited, because I understand that the number is somewhere around 740,000 votes that have been cast in early voting in New York City, which is higher than usual. But they're saying is record setting. But, considering that Nicole's race, 1.5 million people came out to vote. And in the last 2 mayoral elections, 1 million people came out to vote, or just under 1 million. So I predicted that you're going to see 1.5 million voters. I don't think we're going to go over that, but we'll see tomorrow what turnout's like. Hello, Francine. Good to have you. The thing is that the people that want to change things are motivated to vote. Okay. So for sure, you're going to have the Mamdani voters who are motivated to get out there and vote. And that's scary, right? But then again, you could say that conservative minded people might be motivated to vote. So that would be the Curtis voters and some Cuomo voters. They also say that when you hate somebody, you're motivated to vote. So if people hate Mamdani or are frightened of Mamdani, then they're motivated to vote. So your guess is as good as mine. Who knows? Truly, who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? But here's my, my educated guess, kind of, sort of. I think that there are a lot of people on Staten Island that are, and that's your only conservative borough left, right? You have pockets in Queens, but I think that there are a lot of people on Staten Island who are unhappy with the choices. And so I think that they're going to stay home. And that worries me a lot. Good evening, Angela Recca. Got in from headquarters. That's quite all right. I hope that the phone calls were going well. I hope that people were responding. So I don't think that the Staten Island voters love the choices. So I don't know that they're motivated to get out. Hello, Kevin Young. How are you? And now you have to also remember something. And we've been talking about registration in New York, but we haven't talked about this. When you're in a blue state, lots of people who are maybe Republican leaning register Democrat so that they could vote in the primaries, and they vote for who they think is more easily beat. So that happens, in blue states and red states, where people who are not really in that party will register in that party so that they could vote in the primary. Hello, Victoria. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Where are you joining us from? We'd love to know. Are you from Virginia or New Jersey or New York City or any of the other states around America, or are you from another country? As we've had many people here that have joined us from other countries. But yeah, so there are people that register in the majority party to vote for who they think is more easily beaten by their party's candidate. So you do have a lot of Democrats that may not be Democrats, that may not really identify with the Democrat Party, but have registered as Democrats just to vote in the primaries. So if that's so, they better get their butts out, because that's the key to saving New York City. The key to saving New York City is to motivate the old timers, the people that are pissed off and fed up, to motivate the blanks, the people who have decided that they don't want to register in any party, that everything is corrupt, that that they just don't care. Oh, New Jersey from Staten Island. Okay, so that's how things go, right? They go from Brooklyn to Staten Island to New Jersey. So you, Victoria, have a great race in front of you tomorrow night. The Chitterelli Cheryl race. That's going to be something else. We're very excited to watch that one. Jack is just doing magnificently. When you put all the polls together, I mean, he's like a half a point behind Mikey Sherrill, which is insane in New Jersey. Some guy bragging about voting 6 times for Mamdani. Early voting, you can vote anywhere. How do they track if you vote multiple sites? Well, they track it because you have to sign in. And so that's how they do it, right? The same way as if you put in an absentee ballot and then go to the polls and they see that you already cast an absentee ballot, what they'll do is they'll void out your absentee ballot, supposedly, and they'll take your live vote. But we know that shenanigans happen. And that's the thing, is what I don't get is that I'm listening to some of these conservatives talking about, letting Mamdani, just let him win, and that'll show everybody, and that'll show New York, and we'll get a Republican governor. I don't know if you are similar to me and believe that the 2020 election was hinky. Well, you're going to let the guy and his not-for-profit people and the Democrat Socialists of America have control of the Board of Elections and not worry that there'll be hinky elections in the future? Come along. That's the stuff that gets me crazy. Now, I saw that guy who said he voted 6 times, and I got to tell you, Colleen, I think it was clickbait. I think he was trying to get, people to comment on his page. What are the latest poll predictions? Do you believe those numbers? Okay, so it depends on what polls you're looking at. If you are looking at just like individual polls, you're going to see they range from Chitterelli and Sherrill neck and neck to Chitterelli 6 points behind Sherrill. If you take a cumulative of the polls, then you'll see that Chitterelli is about a half a point behind Sherrill, which is insane. Because remember, New Jersey is blue. It did go, red in the past, but it's been blue because a lot of people from New York and New Jersey are now down in Florida. As far as the Virginia race is concerned, Spanberger is ahead of Winsome Earl Sears, who is the lieutenant governor. However, the cumulative polls are showing that Earl Sears is closing the gap. Some have her as far out as 7, some have her as close as 3 to Spanberger. Again, now Youngkin is the governor there. So you would think that there would be an advantage, but Virginia is purple and there's a lot of government employees. And I fear that this government shutdown is really going to tilt the scales towards the Democrat. But you have that that whole situation with the attorney general's race, Jay, what's his face, who was sending those emails that his opponent should die and his wife should hold her dying kids in her arms. That was pretty tough. And Obama was on the stage yesterday campaigning with him. So that attorney general's race, neck and neck by all polls. Okay, I answered that. Hello, Florence. Good to have you. Let's pray for tomorrow night. Let us pray for tomorrow night. I'll take a moment of silence. Yeah, we have good prayer juju in this group. So everybody take a moment of silence and let's pray to save our country. Thank you, Florence. We needed that, I think. But if I sign in South Beach and drive to Grasmere and sign again, they don't have real-time records in every site. They do, because everything is electronic now in New York. So they switched over, even in my race. So you were there when they switched over. We don't sign the books anymore. It went electronic. Hi there. Had a hard time connecting. Hi, Susan. I'm sorry about that, but thank you that you're here now. Francine, Colleen Mahoney, my husband works the election, and when we vote, it shows in the system. Maybe the person was trying under different names, and even then, when my husband was working, they challenged his signature twice because it was so different, and he ended up walking out. Ouch. Well, that happens a lot. Again, we talked about it here, that they say that there are 5 million people that are registered to vote in the city of New York, but that's not real registered. They're not real people. I would say it's more like 3.5 million people, because there are women that are registered 3 times under their maiden name, under their married name, under a hyphenated name if they hyphenate. There are a lot of women who are married or who take their husband's name and their maiden name remains. People who move from apartment to apartment, which we know happens in New York a lot, don't always get rid of, they don't purge the voter rolls. So you'll have that person in this house and that house. And we saw that during COVID, where people got like 5 mail at different houses. My friend who had moved from his house to an apartment in the house next door, and then to another apartment on the same block, and then to another apartment, and they were friends over the course of time, wound up with 6 ballots during COVID, or 6, mailings saying that, you can have an absentee ballot if you wanted. So that's interesting. Yes, we understood Grasmere. Colleen Mahoney, no, just a random person. That's with a particular person who claimed to have voted 6 times. Yeah, that's right. Hello, John Guzzo. How are you? Me too. What? Me too. You're voting, you're frustrated, you're praying. I don't know. Hello, Tony Whitaker. Yes, we do need to pray. It's very, Jeannie Collini. Now I know. Okay. The fact that Jeannie Collini has come on this program. Wait a minute. I all of a sudden feel super nostalgia, and I feel like that means that Mom Donnie will not win. Jeannie Collini. Gentlemen, good to see you, Jeannie, and thanks for jumping on. I think that there's a chance that Cuomo ekes it out. I wish I could say there was a chance that Curtis eked it out, and we all know, we've been through this. But at this point, it's anybody's guess. And then there's the dead people that vote. Yeah, that's right. They don't purge the rolls. So, hi, just tuned in. I was getting hammered on Facebook about the mayoral election. Listen, I get it. Tell me, Deb. I mean, I'm sure you were talking about Cuomo. Yeah, they do have Cuomo derangements syndrome. They do. The thing is, let's remember how many registered Republicans there are. There are not many registered Republicans. What did we say there was? Somebody look it up, please. The State Board of Elections. They'll show you New York City. I think it's 425,000, and then of that, who's real, who left, who's really here? I say 350,000. It's a drop in the bucket. It doesn't make a difference in this race. So if Curtis gets all of the Republicans that come out to vote, so what? So what? They weren't going for Cuomo anyway. And if 10% of the Republicans, well, we know that Curtis isn't going to get all the Republicans, right? Because we know that there were Republicans that were voting for Adams and then came over and are now supporting Cuomo. So Curtis was never getting 100% of the Republican votes. He may get some independent votes. But it's a drop in the bucket. Would I still say it, I wish that he and Cuomo had gotten together and combined, because that would have been the strongest ticket, because the real threat to New York City is not Cuomo, it's not Curtis, it is Mamdani. And that is the threat. And if they both believed it, then they would have come together. Sometimes you have to hold your nose. I said it before. If Vito had said to me, even though I was in it all the way up to my neck, or even Matteo. Well, I don't know about Matteo, but I would have combined efforts, especially if it was against somebody as bad as Mamdani is. Yes, we need to pray. We need to pray. Hello, Ramon. Good to have you. They apparently know that I left New York because I did a poll for people who fled New York. Oh yeah. That's good. Yes, the numbers are about the polls. It's the registered voters on each party. People don't get that. Yeah, they don't get it. And we talked, that group of conservative leaning voters or Republican leaning voters that registered Democrat so that they could vote in primaries. A lot of them are cops and firemen and city workers. Cops, firemen, detectives, all that stuff. A lot of them registered Democrats so that they could vote for the most likely to lose to a Republican. Not about the polls, I meant. I understand. Look, here at the end of the day, people are going to have to vote their conscience, whatever that is. They're going to have to vote their conscience. And do I think it's going to be a squeaker? Yeah, I do. Do I think that we're going to have to go to paper and lock down the machines and count all the votes? Possibly. If that happens, then, it's going to be the top vote getters, right? That you're going to have to support. And then I guess the question that I have for you is all those people, if it turns out to be Cuomo and Mamdani, will anybody volunteer to, help Cuomo in the paper recount to make sure that Mamdani doesn't get in? I mean, or do we hate Cuomo as much as we hate Mamdani? I just can't see there being, I know Cuomo's done bad shit and we've already talked about it. Everybody's done bad shit. A lot of elected officials have, but he also did some good stuff when he was I can't with this hair, when he was the governor of the state. So before he went crazy, I think he was doing okay. But yeah, he did let bail reform in, but I know personally, because I was working on the side of the bail bondsman. We've had Michelle on the show. It was passing. He was planning to veto it, and they were going to override his veto. And then he realized he could get it less. And so he decided to do that. And then they had to change it again. And now they've come up with this crazy bail reform law that they have. Would I have wish that he could have handled it a different way? Yeah. But I also wish that in 2018, a whole bunch of builders didn't give a whole bunch of money to de Blasio to go and take the state Senate away from the Republicans. And, Andy Lanza was and still is our senator. And he used to keep, things level up in Albany in leadership up there when he was in the majority, when the Republicans were in the majority. But no more, because in 2018, a whole bunch of developers gave a whole bunch of money to Blasio, thinking that they would grease the wheels so that they would get these contracts for Rikers Island. That never happened. And for the housing projects that never happened. And they got rid of the Republican-led Senate because, once again, they lie. The Democrat Socialists of America, and I'm going to count Bill de Blasio as part of that group. And we now know Obama is, right? Because he was always the one that was the socialist and part of the cabal. And he called Mamdani and said, I'll give you some pointers. I wish that 2018 never happened, and maybe New York would be better than where it is right now. Okay, hold on a second. I don't want to move, but I don't see how we can stay here if Mamdani wins. It's very upsetting. I agree. Listen, for all the federal workers that are not working right now, if you start a moving company in New York, you will make more money than you ever did working for the federal government in the next, between now and February. So think about it. That's a good business to start. And they should look up DSA organization. They have to. You have to see what the DSA is. And I've talked about it. And last night we talked about it at length. If Mamdani wanted to do what he says he wants to do, which is, free fares and free groceries and free free rent freezes, he could have done that. And Ginny, you bear this out because she works for for an elected official. He could have put that in the budget as an assembly member, and he would have had to get it passed. But he had an opportunity to spend that money on grants to do those things, as in the assembly, and he was in the majority. So these are the things that if the DSA was really pushing that and he wanted to do it, he could have done it there. He can't do it as a member of as the mayor of the city of New York. He could have done something about it as an assemblyman, but he never care. He doesn't care about actually helping. He only cares about spreading socialism. And he's a citizen of Uganda, and that's what he cares about. He cares about global socialism. And by the way, wake up, all you LGBTQ community, because in Uganda, where he is a citizen, they kill gay people. Forget trans. They kill gay people. And we're seeing it, right? Because we saw the FBI uncovered a plot for Halloween. They were going to kill gay people. Who were they? Muslims. So Mamdani is another Joe Biden, a figurehead placed there for an agenda of the DSA. You're absolutely right. I hate Mamdani more than Cuomo. Mamdani's more dangerous than Cuomo. At least, Cuomo is, we know what political character Cuomo has. And here's the thing, remember, is that the DSA and that ilk got Cuomo out on, those charges of sexual harassment, of all the things to get him out on. I've said it before, get him out on killing old people, but on charges of salacious charges of sexual harassment. That's how they got him out, because he was playing footsie, but he wasn't playing all the way. And so they decided that they were going to flex their muscle and get rid of him. And look at who played along: Tish James, Jumaane Williams, and Kathy Hochul. Do you truly think that Andrew Cuomo's memory isn't long? He got thrown out of being governor of the state of New York, where he was doing a pretty okay job for the most part, till he started palling around with the DSA. And they still went after him and threw him out in a terrible way so that it would follow him the rest of his life. If he gets in, he will destroy the DSA, destroy it, because he's got an axe to grind. And I would like to know why my local officials are supporting Curtis, knowing that he could never win in New York City. I don't get it. I already wrote Vito Fasella. Well, they're doing it because it's loyalty, right? But they don't have a clue If they had a clue, they'd be running people against the Democrats in all the seats. We talked about that too. You cannot have election after election. They didn't run anybody against Hanks last time. They didn't run anybody against Hanks this time. And in exchange, they didn't run anybody against the Democrats didn't run anybody against the Republicans. I think they didn't run anybody against Mike, the district attorney, who I love. I would vote for him. I campaigned for him. I always did. But you still got to run people against, that's me, right? Because I personally I think he's a blue dog Democrat. And I thought that I'm talking about. I thought that he did a good job. But you still got to run people against him. So, this is the problem. It's a problem. They don't have a clue. Exactly, Deb. I correct myself. I hate Mamdani's agenda more than Cuomo's. He was a no-show assemblyman. I know he was a no-show assemblyman because the only thing he wanted to do, his only focus was to grow the Democrat Socialist Party. That's all his focus was, and that's what he's going to do when he becomes mayor. But now his bully pulpit is really big. Okay, I'll check in tomorrow. All right. Well, at 7:00 tomorrow, everybody. Hochul was easier to control. Absolutely, she was. What Cuomo did as sexual harassment was what we all did in the 80s, low. We were much less uptight. Cuomo is from that era, not a predator. Agreed. Okay, so I wanted to talk about a little bit about who the Democrats have out there stumping for them. So let's take, and it's really interesting because we've got Newsom and we've got Kamala, who are supposedly running for president of the United States, yet neither of them were asked to stump for Spamberger or for Mikey Sherrill. Isn't that interesting? Listen to Newsom. This is just. He's talking to 60 Minutes about running for president. That now he's saying he's not running for president. Last week he was. Watch.
Let me ask you, why do you want to be president?
I don't. I'm not suggesting I am. I'm saying in response to someone talked about it, and I hate when nothing I dislike more than the politician that sits there and lies to you. And we all just sit there rolling our eyes going, give me a break. So as it relates to that, there's nothing on the right. I'm focused on Prop 50. I'm focusing on fair and free elections. And to the extent fate, the future, there's an alignment, you have a big enough why, you have a what and a how, you meet a moment, and that moment presents itself in a year and a half, we'll see what happens.
Prop 50. By the way, from what I'm hearing, it's going to pass because nobody remembers about the propositions. And so the people that are focused on the propositions are going to make sure they get the vote out. And that's how these propositions pass. That's why I say we need propositions on the ballot. There should be propositions on the ballot in California next year for nonpartisan elections, in Illinois, and all the blue states. The Republicans ought to get their shit together and get propositions on the ballot, because who will it bring out? It will bring out Republicans if you're going to go to nonpartisan elections. They want to play this game with the redistricting of congressional seats and lines. Well, then let us play the game of strip the partisan labels off of elections, strip the Democrat out of the blue states. Okay. Here is Kamala Harris talking about her run or possible run for president.
In April, long before President Biden pulled out, we asked Nancy Pelosi what was going wrong. This was a huge subject of discussion. Mm-hmm. And you write that President Biden didn't raise his frailty with you, and you write that you didn't really raise it with him. That's extraordinary to read in your account.
Well, let's be more precise. There is a very serious difference between capacity to be president of the United States and the capacity to run for president of the United States. And so it is on that latter piece that I talk about in the book, about my concern about his ability with the level of endurance, energy that it requires, especially running against now the current president. In reflection, realize that, I ask, was it on my behalf grace or recklessness to not raise the point with him about whether it was right for him to run? But let's be clear, my question was never about his capacity to be president.
But isn't it a strange message to the public to say, you know what, you need to be tougher and more able to run a political campaign than actually to be the person behind the desk in the Oval Office, to be the person making decisions in the Situation Room? So did you just not think it was that bad, or did you feel you just couldn't raise it?
I was concerned about his ability to run for re-election, given what the campaign would require, and requires of any individual, regardless of their age, and to run while being the sitting president of the United States with all of the responsibilities that requires.
There's a lot of very well-respected reporting now in the United States that uses phrases like cover-up, that talks about widespread concerns. And you yourself say in the book, it shouldn't have been a choice for an individual's ego.
I do reflect on whether I should have had a conversation with him, urging him not to run for re-election.
She was trying to thread that needle, and she just could not do it. I love this comment referring to Newsom. He doesn't lie because he never actually says anything, and neither does Kamala. It must be the water in California. They all lie. Yes, of course they all lie. And I love how he's rolling his eyes and oh please, I can't even. But again, here. These are our, and who's the other one? Buttigieg, right? Those are the three front runners for president in 2028. And nobody's asking them to campaign with them. That's telling. That's really telling. How is it that the person that they want to campaign with is a person that's been out for almost 10 years? And that's Obama. And Obama was out there. He was out there this weekend. And here's what he had to say at Spanberger's. And there's a reason that I'm picking this one. Here's what he had to say when he was campaigning for Abigail Spanberger.
He sees you and has been with you and knows your struggles and will fight for you every single day. Virginia, it's time to point America in a better direction by electing Abigail Spanberger as your next governor.
New data from the Wasson Center at Christopher Newport University shows Spanberger with a 7-point lead against Republican challenger Earl Sears, which is down from a 10-point advantage earlier this month. In Norfolk, I'm Layla Cox, 13 News Now.
So Earl Sears is actually starting to move up in the polls. And these are the things that you want to see. You prefer to see it before early voting starts. But I don't think that we really have the early voting thing down yet. People, they only talk about November 4th. They forget to figure in early voting. His hand signals are ridiculous. Yeah, he thinks he's Italian. I don't know. And Obama is campaigning against a black woman, lol. He's so funny. Yes. So in case you didn't know, let me just show you. This is Winsome Earl Sears. She is a Marine. She is the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia. She, is very competent, very credible candidate. She ran with Glenn Youngkin, and they both won. And just a reminder, this is what Obama said to the brothers about Kamala when he thought they were going to vote for Trump, which, oh, by the way, they did.
When you have a choice that is this clear, when on the one hand you have somebody who grew up like you, knows you, went to college with you, understands the struggles and pain and joy that comes from those experiences, who's had to work harder and do more and overcome. And you're coming up with all kinds of reasons and excuses. Part of it makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president.
They weren't feeling it. And, identity politics, right? It only works as long as we're talking about Democrat candidates, because heaven forbid a Black Republican grew up like you, sees you, knows you, right? And this is the problem. This is why people of color are leaving the Democrat Party and coming over to the Republican Party, where they belong, I might say, where they've always belonged, where they always were before. And somehow, Johnson's fucked the whole thing up. But women and people of color, they belong in our party. We were the ones who elected the first Black judge. We were the one who elected the first female. Katie Stanton and Susan B. Anthony, they were Republicans. Well, they weren't really because they didn't have the vote, but the suffragettes were more Republican than Democrats. Remember, the Democrats were the rich business people. Let's see. Much more capable leader than Kamala. Oh, yeah. Winsome Sears everybody's much more capable leader than Kamala. Fortunately, Obama's endorsement doesn't carry much weight. If it did, then Kamala would be president and we wouldn't be having these conversations right now. Well, probably it would have already happened. And we would have been calling each other comrade. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, enough of me tonight. I know that you're all pre-gaming for tomorrow. So tomorrow night, 7 o'clock till whenever. Jump in whenever you like. And, we will have live updates and we will see who wins in Virginia, New Jersey, and New York City. And most importantly, we'll talk a little bit about what these trends are going to mean for 2026. Well, not more importantly, because these elections are pretty damn important. But we want to know what these trends are for 2026. Republicans elected Blacks to Congress after Civil War, and Dems created the KKK to intimidate them. That is 100% correct. Love having Colleen on. Love having you all on. Thank you so very much for joining me and spending now almost 40 minutes with me. Tomorrow, we're going to spend the whole night together. So make sure we'll all go in our jammies and maybe some hot cocoa. And for those that imbibe, maybe a little bit of a cocktail. For those who don't, whatever you fancy. Fingers crossed and praying. Okay, yes, fingers crossed and praying. Everybody say a prayer, and I'll see you tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Okay, bye.